Well, good morning. You know, as we go through the book of the Revelation, as you have read it, and then as you have maybe checked yourself with commentaries or things you were instructed as a child, let me just say that the book of the Revelation is not your typical read. It's not like reading Colossians or Romans or one of the Gospels or anything in the Old Testament, because it is an unveiling of the end. It's God's end game. And I just, as I contemplate from Genesis, where we have the creation, and then we go all through and we spend time in Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, the time when Emmanuel dwelt with us, tabernacled with us for about 33 years, depending on how you count the calendar. We go through and we realize that we're now 2,000 years after the ascension and all the redemption price paid. And we look at our world, which, quite frankly, if I didn't know Jesus, I have no clue on what I would think, but I think I'd be terrified. That's what I think. I think I'd be terrified because of what's happening over there, and what's happening over there, and what's happening in Washington, D.C., and what's happening at my local bank, and what's happening at the local police department. Wait, are you in my local? No. No. Everything around us seems to have frayed edges and locks that don't work, and speeches that either fall flat, or that when they're opening their mouths and speaking to you, whatever is coming out of their mouth is just a straight across the board lie. So the world itself is in a place that is quite dangerous. It's been there before. I mean, we have had 2 world wars, and with some idiot with his finger hovering over a little red button, we could have easily a World War III, which I don't believe is going to happen unless you call what we're going to be looking at here today World War III, because it sure seems like it could fit that, but that won't concern me and you. Without going into the details, which I taught now, I think 5-6 years ago. Well, Luke took 4 years, so it must have been 7 years ago, with 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. I believe firmly that the Church of Jesus Christ doesn't exist to go through God's wrath. And what we're looking at here with the opening of the seals in Revelation chapter 6 is the opening salvos of God's wrath being poured out. It seems to start slowly, but just like a locomotive going out of the station, it picks up speed as it picks up steam, and pretty soon this thing is just going full bore, and it seems like really nothing can stop it. So the world is doing what it's doing, and God, who has declared the end from the beginning, knows. And some of the words that we've seen in these chapters is a little phrase called "and God," or "and it was given to them." Well, passive. If here's the entity and something was given to him, and we're kind of more or less in heaven, it's like, well, it's not a far stretch to think that God is giving them permission. God is giving them the ability to do what they're going to do. And so the first horseman on the white horse, if in your history there's been some discussion and debate on whether that was Jesus, because we find later on, I think it's chapter 19, that Jesus is riding a white horse, and this must be Jesus. I've already told you that it's not. This is a false leader. He looks to be good, and we've got a history of those leaders who have a good exterior and a good speaking voice, and they can put you at ease. And some people in leadership are called just really nice old men, and it's like, you don't know them very well, do you? He's the first horseman on a white horse is not Jesus. It's the false leader, a facade of righteousness, and his activity is conquering, with the purpose to conquer. Jesus has already conquered. He's already won. So it's not him. The second horseman, that which the fiery horse, fiery, like we add the word red. The actual word is fiery, so we assume it's red. Another horse went out, and God appointed him to take peace from the world. And we find then that with the great sword, a sword is not benign. A sword is an active instrument. And the bloodshed, the violence, the war, the international strife involved in this is, in a sense we're experiencing it now, but I'm not saying that's what that is. I'm saying what I'm saying with that is if we're experiencing that kind of concept here, now, you can only imagine that it's picking up steam here with the second horseman. The third horseman, which we did not get to last week, verse 5 and 6, when he, that is Jesus, the Lamb, broke the third seal, I heard the third living creature saying, "Be going." And I looked, and behold, a black horse, and the one who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard something like a voice in the center of the four living creatures, four living beings, saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius. And do not damage the oil and the wine." Now, growing up, the third horseman was famine. There was no discussion. It was just, this is famine. And famine always follows the bloodshed and the war and the international strife. But I want you to look at it. And obviously when I say but, I want you to look at it. You know I'm going in a different direction, right? You know that by now? When he broke the third seal and I heard the third living being say, "Be going," I looked, and behold, a black horse. Get back to that in a moment. And he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. Number one, black. Okay. When do we wear black?
Stealthy.
Well, you're thinking more of ninja type, no. Yeah, I'm sure those ninjas wear for stealth.
In the morning.
That's good. I like that. I hadn't thought of that. I hate it when anyway. That's why I never ask questions from the pulpit. I hadn't thought of that before. I'll get back to you on that one. We wear black for mourning. Mourning lamentations. The group brain on the explanation for black horse, the group brain says it's famine. And my brain says, no, I see black as mourning and lamentation. I'll answer the question on mourning or lamentation about what in a moment. But let's look at, what does he have in his hand? He has a balance. What is that? Well, you've seen the pictures of this gal. She's a woman, and she's not doing this, but she's blindfolded, and she's holding out scales. Yeah, she's holding out scales. So you have platform here and a platform here. Now, this beam can also have a weight, so let's say it's 1 pound over here, and then over here a dish for whatever, I'm just going to say candy, because that's what's on my mind. So over here, I'm going to pay so much for a pound of candy. So you heap up that until it does this. And there's no way, apart from this is what it's saying. He's holding a measuring beam, a weighing beam. And you can pick whichever one you like. Ultimately, I don't think it matters. So this guy in black is holding up something that will measure. And we measure things pretty much for price, for purchase. So it's a concept having to do with economy. Okay, well, hang on. We move to, I haven't left the what are we mourning and so on. That's going to be the coup de grace on this. So we'll keep moving into verse 6. And I heard, as it were, a voice amid the 4 living beings. So, remember, the 4 living beings surround the throne. And the 24 thrones of the 24 elders surround the 4 living beings. And the throne, God the Father, God the Son, established there. And at this point, Jesus has come, taken the scroll, and is breaking seal 1, breaking seal 2, breaking seal 3. And this voice is coming from amidst the 4 living beings. And it doesn't say it's God's voice, but that's where I leave it. And that's where I have to leave it, because it doesn't say God said. It says that, as it were, a voice amidst. So it's a proximity thing, and there's something being said. And obviously, if something's being said from that general area of authority, you want to listen to it. And the literal translation is a koinix of wheat at a denarius, and 3 koinix of barley at a denarius. We'll leave the oil and wine for a moment. Okay, a denarius, how much do you, this is not for you to respond, how much do you earn an hour? And therefore, if you work 8 hours, how much did you earn? You can do your own math. I'm not going to do it for you because I can't even do my own. But the denarius, if all of you went to work tomorrow, you would all work for a denarius. The whole day, you would get, in essence, we'll just say a shilling or a penny. So you work for a penny. You work all day and you get a penny. You work 5 days, yeah. You know how much I can even do this one. You get 5 pennies. Okay, good for you. Good for us. Now, the wheat is of a higher quality and a higher value than barley. And I failed to ask any cooks why, and I'm not going to do it from the pulpit in case I get answers. So I'm just going to say that wheat is of more value than barley. That's why you can get more barley for a penny than you can wheat. So, you work all day, you get a penny, and what can you buy with your penny? Can you buy, especially now that we're in winter, can you buy a penny's worth of wood for the fireplace? Warm you up. Can you buy with a penny a new window to keep the cold air out? No. What you're doing with your penny is you're buying a penny's worth of wheat. And that is enough to sustain you for the day. Okay. Sound good? Sound good? Okay, what if you're married with children? You work all day for a denarius so that you can buy enough bread to sustain you. Only to sustain you. Not to get fat, not to gain weight, but simply not to lose weight. Okay? What happens to your children? What happens to your wife? What happens to grandma and grandpa who just happen to be living with you? Too old to work. You work all day for a penny. You take that penny and you go buy enough bread to sustain you so that the next day you can go work for a penny so you can go buy bread to sustain you. Do you see where this goes? Now, here's the argument that I make that it's not famine. Because it's available. You can buy the wheat, you can buy the barley, it's right there. So what is the problem with this picture? It's called, in modern day parlance, it's called hyperinflation. Have we seen that before in the United States, for all of you who are old enough to remember the Jimmy Carter days? Whoops. The hyperinflation. And we've got people in our government who say we don't have enough money, so let's print more. Which does what with the value of the money that you have? You know what it does. This isn't a political statement, this is an economical statement. Hyperinflation. Have we seen that before? We've seen it before. Are we going to see it again? I won't even answer that. Let's just say that you need to prepare yourself. So, food is available. The problem is you simply can't afford it. So here, now, we get to why a black horse, why the mourning, why the lamentation. Stop and think for a moment on what you can do today. I mean, when we're done with church, everybody has, I'm just going to throw a number out. Everybody has $100 and you don't have to go home. You have the freedom to use that $100 any way you want. So some of you will go to the beach and rent a kayak for $100 for an hour and you'll go out and have fun. Some of you will go buy a meal. 14 somethings, I don't know what. And you'll just, you'll go and spend it. Now, tomorrow, somebody announces, and I won't even know who anymore, that the dollar has halved in value, and by the end of the month it's going to halve again, and then by January 31st it's going to halve again. So if you've done the math, I think we're at 1/8. So your dollar is now worth, 12.5 cents? So I give you $100 at the end of January. What are you going to do with it? Well, you're not going to buy a 14-something meal, and you don't have enough now to go spend an hour on a kayak. You see where I'm going with that? So what you can do today, and then we arrive at January 31st, can you do what you did today on January 31st with 1/8 the hyperinflation hitting you? You cannot. So we, in this world today, are used to doing any number of things. When I came in here today, I flicked on a switch. I turned on a knob. I turned on another switch. And voila! And guess what? The church can afford to pay for this. Isn't that wonderful? What happens January 31st when we're out of propane and we realize that what cost us $500 in November is costing us $5,000 in the end of January? Will we have this? So where is the mourning and the lamentation on this? The world has come to a place where they cannot do what they did just recently, and it doesn't get better. There is no remedy for this. We get to the oil and the wine, do not damage. You realize that this oil, I mean, growing up, I always, because we were dealing with the, some of you remember, picking a number and even numbers, odd numbers, or if you were a regular customer, you can get in line for gas. And so this all dealt with Saudi Arabian oil. That's what I thought, oil, because oil is oil, except that this isn't. This is olive oil, which is kind of everyday usage, right? I mean, don't we all use olive oil? I don't have any idea if we do. What about wine? We think of wine today, especially in the San Luis and so on counties and the whole California and now into Oregon, I don't know, maybe Washington too, where we spend so much of our acreage and our water on wine, and then we pay a hefty price for it. Is that what this is? No. This is the regular drink of the day. This is like water, except their water wasn't good. So they drank wine because their wine killed the bad stuff that was in. So this is the common stuff. It's available. You just can't afford it. So this black horse, this mourning and lamentation is lamentation and mourning over a way of life that's lost and gone. There's no such thing as a middle class. There's only the rich and everyone else. I don't know. You don't have to agree with me. You can just really just say, oh, it's just famine. Let's move on. And that's fine. I just don't think it is. So there you go. Obviously, I'm not going to teach you things which I don't believe in. So there you go. If you're ready to move on, we are at the fourth seal, verses 7 and 8. And when he opened the fourth seal, I heard a voice of the fourth living being saying, be going. And I saw, and behold, and this you're going to find a variety of interpretations, a pale horse, an ashen horse, a livid horse. I don't think anything has green, but it falls into that category. So it could even be a green horse, but it isn't green. And the one sitting on him, the name for him was the Death. And the Hades kept following after him. And there was given to him authority over the fourth part of the earth to kill, in connection with a great sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. Yikes.
Yeah, yikes.
This is where, I mean, you could say, okay, conquer, all right, that's what Putin's doing over there, and that's what Kim Il-jong, or whatever his name is doing over there, and that's what that guy's doing over there. All right, we get that. War, I mean, we've always had war. War, bloodshed, the hyperinflation, all right, well, I don't like it, but I've survived once. We get to this one, just a little bit different. We have, number one, this horse with this weird color. And for those of you with the notes on the back as well as the front, I'm going to read to you from the fourth horseman. In response to the fourth summons, John saw a fourth horse with its rider. The word to describe the fourth horse's color, that is pale green, is the color of grass and other vegetation in three other references, but in the present connection, it designates the yellowish green of decay, the pallor of death. It is the pale ashen color that images a face bleached about because of terror, and it deals with the corruption of death. So this thing is an ugly putrescent color. It reminds us of nothing that is good, nothing that is healthy. So this putrescent colored horse has a rider whose name is Death. Is that ambiguous to anybody at all? Okay, he has a companion. We could probably name, how many cartoon characters can you name that have two names? Mutt and Jeff, Tom and Jerry, etc. We have death and a constant companion called hell. It's kind of like in a parade where you have the horseman riding his horse in the parade, and who do you have behind him? A pooper scooper. Here you have death. And what do you have behind him? Hell. I tell you, the more God's wrath unfolds, the scarier it gets. We do not want to forget what the writer of Hebrews said. It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of a living God. And here it is. And hell, that is Hades. Hades, I cannot find, I think I already did for some of you with the notebooks, I think I've already done the homework on that. My conclusion is that Hades is hell. It's not just a place of the dead, it's hell. So this really horrible judgment is not for God's people. It's for those who basically have shined him on. The name of the horseman is death, and Hades, and it's an imperfect that follows, literally it says kept following after him. It's an imperfect. It's like, what did you do today? Oh, I just hung around. Well, that's an imperfect because you just hung around. What did you do today? I tightened the bolts. Okay, that's an aorist. You did it. Or if you're cooking for the family before Thanksgiving, what did you do today? I was cooking. That's a perfect tense because it just keeps going on and on. Okay, that was your lesson on those things. So hell follows death, and this is where you wonder if God knows what's going on sometimes. Authority was given to them, that is death, and death's companion Hades, over a fourth of the earth. I don't even know what the population of the earth is anymore. It was 5 billion. Is it 6? Have we gone up 1 billion people in the last year? Okay, I'll just say 5 billion.
It was 8.
8? 8 billion? Man, I must have been asleep last week. That's just a month ago, right? 8 billion. 8 billion. Okay, so this is real easy math with 8. It's a little harder with 5. 8 billion people divided by 4. Authority was given to death and hell over a fourth of the earth. 2 billion people. To kill with sword and with famine and with pestilence and by the wild beasts of earth. The first 3 on this, God will allow death and Hades to remove human life, sword, famine, and pestilence. The sword, a symbol of death by violent means, possibly warfare, but in this day and age, it doesn't have to be warfare. Famine is that which always follows war. It just does. And it's going to worsen so that sizable numbers of people will die of starvation. And the inclusion of pestilence means that fatal diseases will be rampant and many will fall victim to them. That's what happens too. If you remember, the Black Death followed after years of famine, and the people were too weak to resist. They didn't have the buoyancy of recuperation. So those 3 items together, but then the last item is an active agent, wild beasts. Do you realize what we are doing? And I can't remember, do you remember where Ray and Ann were when they saw the wolf standing by the road watching them? It was a wolf. She took a picture out of their motorhome. Wolf was just standing there like this, right by the road. There's lunch. I understand they're reintroducing the grizzly bear up in the Northwest. I don't. Stupid is stupid. Anyway, all of a sudden we have a plethora of. Do you remember the big pussycat in California that's protected? Yeah, we have big pussycats, big bears, big things that are able to chase down weak humans, because we're fresh meat. I don't know. How do you conclude the fourth horse? Death to a quarter of the world's population. How do we even mentally grip that? And then look at the modus operandi. Look at the method used. The sword, famine, pestilence. I wish I had kept the article, because about 25 years ago I was subscribed to some business magazine, and at the back of the magazine they had this, like I said, 25 years ago, they had this list of new pestilences in the world. This was 25 years ago. 25 years ago. Have we picked up any pestilences since then?
The whole book.
Or have we made any new pestilences since then? Boy, am I crossing over some lines here or what? The world is ready for the fulfillment of the fourth horseman. The world is ready today. How long will it take from Mr. Conqueror Man conquering as the first horseman, and then through the wars, and then through the hyperinflation, to get to this place where, you know, how long will this even take? There's no way of knowing, but let's give it 3.5 years. Let's give this a generous 1/4 of the population killed and all these other things over a period of 3.5 years. Let's be generous with our time expanse. Does it soften the blow? Not really. So, if you have been here, which obviously only one of you has not been here for all four, some of you have been here for all four, the four horsemen of the apocalypse is the, if we were in a race, the starter's whistle would go off, or the starter's gun, however they do it these days, and the race is on. Only it's not the kind of race anybody wants to be in. You don't want to be here for the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Well, how can I miss it, Pastor Wayne? How am I able to miss all the action? The simple truth of what we celebrate. With the birth of Jesus at Christmas, His life perfectly lived, His redemptive sacrifice, and His resurrection from the dead, the first fruits of resurrection from the dead, which simply means there's a whole bunch to follow. That would be you, if you have believed this. This is the, how do you say, this is your ticket. This. And it's called faith. Faith placed in the person and the work of Jesus Christ. It is that simple. But it has to be, you have to look at Him. You have to see Him. Emmanuel, God with us. Jesus, the Savior. The four horsemen of the apocalypse, thank you that we're done with that. I'm not saying it gets better, but at least we're through with that. There's more to come. But the beauty of it is that His church will not be here. And I think I failed to forget, I remembered that I failed. Anyway, 1 Thessalonians says we will not be here for the wrath. He's not preparing us for the wrath. He died so that we can have life. Father, you are good all the time, and we're so grateful. We're so grateful that the horrors and the terrors that we read about and we see, and actually we have to believe If we believed everything about the first Advent and we celebrated every year, December 25th, the birth of the King, the birth of the Christ child, then why wouldn't we believe that what is presented here in Revelation isn't going to happen as well? We're so grateful that we get to celebrate this amazing child, the Christ child, his birth, this Christmas season. May we look at him and worship him and love him more and more day by day. And it's a privilege and a pleasure to close these words of prayer in his name, because he's the one that made it possible. Amen.